Hello, this is the DB Grinder here, back at it again with another video, but you're also going to hear this twice because this is post-deck profile grinder. I just did the deck profile with the first place person, and I appreciate you for doing the deck profile with me, but I recorded it on the wrong scene. I'm so bad because I've been recording remote duels all day, and I recorded it on a remote duel scene, so like half of the top row is cut out and the entire extra deck is cut out. But here's the full list. We are going to be, I'm still going to upload this, but I'm sorry that it does not look as good. The explanations are still there and everything, so I'm still going to upload this. But here is the full list if you want to see it. And with that being said, I'm going to let pre-deck profile grinder hop into this with the first place person. So there you go. Take the scene, grinder. Hello guys, the DB Grinder here, back at it again with another video, and this time I am here with
Jonathan.
and what'd you do and what'd you place? Or what'd you play and
Uh,
what'd you
I got
place?
I got first place at the LCS. I think it was what, 15 or 16?
Yeah, 15.
Yeah, 15. It's the first one I've attended since like 7, I believe, and the third one overall. Um, and it's the first one that I have topped and also won out of those 4 attempts. I took a large break after the 7th one for a while, and I finally decided to do one again. And it was like last minute. I had texted Hani, and he let me in like 5 minutes before the tournament started. So it paid off.
Oh yeah, definitely played off. You got first place. But
But I
also,
played Prank Kids,
mhm.
and it's nothing really special. I've got a couple tech cards, I guess you can say, and the hand trap lineup might be different than others, but other than that, it's pretty. I think it's kind of standard. I think for the most part.
Yeah, there's definitely some like cool techs and like the extra deck, side deck, even a little bit in the main deck, just stuff that not a lot of people are on. But do you want to do any shoutouts before we hop into the deck profile?
Oh yeah, definitely. So there's two shout outs I want to really give. And that's to my friends, Matt Grooms and Kyle Doble. They like are the only people that I've actually tested with this deck, and overall, counting locals and with them, I've probably had almost 500 matches. And this deck has gone through like iterations and iterations of just changes over since like last ban list and now to get to where it is. So I owe it to like them. They hate playing me because this is all I ever play. Um, and I do win the majority of our matches, but it gives me the testing that I need. Because they all play different decks from Drytron to Striker, Tri Brigade, Salad, like all of those different decks. So
Yeah, just a little bit of everything. But yeah, let's just hop right into the list.
all right, so I'm playing 3 of every prank kid because I'm doing the poly build, and so you want to open up and have as many kids in the deck to increase your chances of opening like 2 kids with poly. You can still do the combo with 1 kid with ending on Toad, but it's always better to have 2, especially when going second, because chain blocking, it makes a huge difference, especially with the field spell, which is also maxed out on at 4. It's the best card when going second, and it's still like it helps you get your second kid when going first. So you want to maximize out on those to try to get your polymerization um, the most. I can't even think of the word I want to say. You just want to get the most out of the poly since you're playing it. And I've been running poly since like maybe 1 month after the Link 1 released. I didn't play it at first because the Link 1, let you play anytime, but then I realized, you'd run into nib. So I wanted to like mitigate my chances of running into nib, and so I started playing poly and always played it. And then I actually scrubbed out. I went 5-0 at the YCS last weekend, and then lost the next 3 in a row because I just never played around nib, and every single opponent had it. So I changed up the build even more and added in the Thunder Dragon Fusion, and the Anaconda and Link Spider. And so, like, if you open up any 2 kids not rock, then you can play around Nib with 4 summons. If you open up 1 kid, then I wanted to still try to play around it if I could, but while also still having Battle Butler. And that happened if you had access to either a hard-drawn Thunder Dragon Fusion, a Monster Reborn, or Talents, because then you would just Talents Nib and then make the Link Spider with Nib token for Anaconda. So it just increases your chances to play around it. You almost never lose to Nib. I was nibbed once, but I only played into it because I had an extender to get Battle Butler. Anaconda came up 3 times the whole tournament, and Thunder Dragon Fusion came up once with the hard drawn and helped me push through for the win. So, and it's not just through Nib. It can help you play through bells and stuff as well when they have an abundant amount of like fair hand traps against you. So it's just good to play that little engine. I still hate Thunder Dragon Fusion. I always will, but I think it's a necessary brick to play in the deck with people still signing into Nib and all the fair hand traps, especially against Bell. So then we played 2 Pandemonium instead of 3 because I'm not on Desires. I actually thought Talents would be more versatile for this format because everyone's running like at least 9+ hand traps in their decks, except for Drytron. It's an easy side out versus Drytron when you're going second because they're going to have infinite negates. So you just want something like Dark Ruler or something with Droll. But in most scenarios, Talents was just like better to have. You don't ever banish any of your engine, which is good. So playing just the 2 Pandemonium would be fine for that reason. Because you're also playing 3 poly, so you have 5 fusion spells with fusion and instant fusion. So speaking of, that's like self-explanatory, instant fusion and Called by the Grave, just for like additional ways to deal with all the hand traps in the format. Instant fusion will always be broken in this deck, and it's like 1 for good reason. And then for the hand traps, I chose the standard ones: 3 Ash, 3 Veiler, and like the impermanents. I think like the reason it's only 2 impermanents was because you're always resolving pranks every turn, and you want to draw into a hand trap that's usable on your opponent's turn. So I wanted to maximize on the fair hand traps that were good this format. Impermanents included because it's so good against Tri-Brigade. But I only wanted to do 2 of it while doing 3 Veiler and Veiler is something you can draw off of pranks and be useful. And because you play in so many hand traps, you're typically usually going to draw 1 for that end phase effect. And it's very crucial just to always have that additional interaction, especially if your Pandemonium gets like interrupted, or if your double Butler just isn't enough, or if you're against a matchup like Striker where Butler isn't needed, but you need Butler Flusher. So Bell was very mediocre in YCS. So that was the one I decided to cut down from 2 to 1 when I added in Terraforming. And I still wanted a variety of hand traps. So I did max down on 3 of the Veiler and Ash because they're useful against everything. And then Crow, I still liked. I know when I watched your videos when you did our replays, you mentioned that you asked why I was on Crow. And I just think Crow is still needed in the Striker matchup. It's supposed to be fair and easy to beat them, but with the abundant amount of hand traps, including Bell, it's just difficult. So your engine will always beat theirs, I feel like, but it just depends on who draws the better hand trap versus them. And if you can get rid of that engage or any specific target, multi-roll or anything that they're targeting with Kagari, then it helps your grind game versus them, even if they have the hand traps, and you should just eventually beat them, especially if you hit that engage. But it's not necessarily just for them. It's good in the Drytron matchup. It's fine in Tri-Brigade if they start the route that doesn't send 3, where they dump kit and then Nerval and sending Fractal first. So not everyone did that version. So when they would send 2, that would lose to a Crow because they wouldn't have enough names engraved to banish from the first summon. So it helped out in a lot of ways. And then if it was a matchup that I went up against, then it was bad, then I would take it out, of course. I will say against the Infernoble player, I learned after I lost to him in Swiss, but Crow on his death spot would be like literally like probably game, because he revived in his combo, he revived it like 5 times. So hitting the death spot in that would probably be game. I did draw it against him in finals, but he just couldn't play at that point. Like he didn't open up very well. Game 2.
Yeah.
And then game 1, Butler was just.
I actually, I was thinking earlier about like the dotKuro versus the Infernoble matchup, and like it does seem like really really good, but like they power tool add DDR, so then like if you crow the 001, it doesn't actually matter like that much in most cases. But I was just thinking of like ways to like side deck versus them, because like I figured that they're gonna get more popular after this event.
See, you think that that's true, but they don't make Power Tool off of their first summon with Deskbot. So when you banish it the first time it goes to grave, they're not getting to Power Tool, at least not very easily, unless they're going to have like DDR already, or a reborn for one of their like Infernoble tuners in grave or something. But that is definitely good to note. Hopefully that deck doesn't pick up, because it's one of those glass cannon decks.
Yeah. Yeah, that deck is definitely a dice roll deck most of the time.
Oh yeah, I guess I played the one Pranks obviously, and the one Monster Reborn for Pranks is necessary, and then Monster Reborn just another good extender to have to help play through Nib and just other hand traps. It's never like bad to draw either. So
yeah.
And then I guess for the side deck, so we go with the Drolls were Cycle Readers, but I wanted something that was more a variety of versus other decks, because I struggle versus Virtual World, Winda, and Drytron, of course, and this hand trap like hits all 3 of those matchups. So and Droll is just as good against Drytron as like Cycle Reader in most cases. So I just thought Droll would be the best new other hand trap to side if I need to side anymore. So I'll get to the Blizzards in a second. So we did, for back row removal, we did 3 Cosmic and Duster, because you need back row removal after siding. I didn't main any because I didn't feel like anyone, like if I ran into mine, that's a loss. Cool, I'll take the L game 1. But I didn't think anyone was going to be on that, and if they were, it was going to be a very low amount of striker players. And then if you're going against a back row deck, usually 1 Cosmic, like drawing a Cosmic is not going to be enough if you're against an entire back row deck. So I just felt like siding that would be better. Dark Ruler is mainly for 3 decks, just like Droll. It's literally for Drytron, Virtual World, because Shen says your kids can't activate unless you draw a fusion spell, and Winda. So they were droplets. I switched them to Dark Ruler this tournament. And then going first, I did the 3 Judgment. Unnecessary, just good card for going first. And then the Blizzards, the card that you don't like. So the thought process behind Blizzard, and I actually got this from someone's. It was like an extravaganza Prank Kids profile. They cited Blizzard as well. It was like a month and a half ago. I don't know whose it was. And I read it and I was like, you know what? That's a really good idea. I like that card. And like, even though my build plays Poly, I'm usually having like access to Toad. I'd still rather have another like good card going first, because if you're going first against any matchup, every deck plays a good spell, whether that be a starter spell like a pot card or like mining. And even if they don't have Cosmic or Twin, which this card also stops, then you're going to hit one of their other cards. They're going to neg 1 with mining. They're going to neg 1 with Twin. If they play Desires, they're going to get Desires back, but do they really want to activate it again the following turn and have over half their deck gone? Like, even if that's like saying if they even get another turn, because usually you're going to OTK on your next turn. Like, you just want to be able to play game 1, and then turn 1, and then beat them turn 2. So, and then you always, in my opinion, you always side in going first for the extra protection from the Twin and Cosmic, because everyone who knows how to play against kids will side those back row disruptions in. And then I would also side again going second versus the Mirror, because it hits Pandemonium, and then they won't be able to fuse. And then also versus Striker, because being able to keep, like if they have 3 spells engraved, being able to keep your monster on your board so you can play and make that Weather Washer is absolutely necessary. And also, if they actually have a set Widow Anchor or anything set from multi-roll and you negate that with Blizzard, it'll still actually be banished because it's not supposed to go to the grave. So it will not return to their hand. Just a quick little like fun fact for that. So that's my reasoning behind Blizzard. I don't know if that's enough reasoning for you to play it, but that is the reason I play it, and it worked really well for me. I've negated mining, I negated desires, I negated a twin as against the Dragon Link player in the semifinals. So
yeah,
I think
mean,
the card
I
overall,
your reasoning behind it and like why you played it. I'm not too sure if I'm like sold on it because it's pretty much like I want to say like somewhat like another Judgment versus most matchups like when you go first. Obviously when you play versus like Pranks going second or Striker going second, you're using it kind of as like a defensive card also going first to like stop like the Pandemonium or like a Widow Anchor. I think it's one of those cards that I just need to like actually like play with and try it out to see if it's actually like see if I like it or not. Because I have
it's also
not tried this
something
card
that
out.
can, yeah, it's also something that can negate Mystic Mine too. Like it shouldn't like come up, but it's definitely something if you're trying to push for game and you're sitting there letting you draw for 6 turns or whatever, and you draw the Blizzard, just try to like do your play and then possibly go battle phase, use Blizzard. That's same with Cosmic, but it's just another way to get rid of Mystic Mine.
Yeah.
Obviously, like they're gonna eventually play because they know you won't deck out with Pranks. But something like Striker, they're gonna try to like just get all the Shark Cannons and Widow Anchors and then accumulate them and then eventually try to OTK you. So you have to be able to like draw into something else for that vine if you're under that or something. Speaking of, I don't play that card in this deck, even though I know it's good with this, because I don't like the card. I don't think it's a fair card, so I don't want to play something like that. That I don't know. I'm just not that kind of person. So
Just wondering, do you think it's like a bad card in this deck, or do you just not play it because like
no,
morals?
it's
I
definitely
guess.
good in this deck because you can do a loop with it where you can just do 1,500 damage at literally every turn. But
Yeah.
I don't like Mystic Mine as in general as a card. I don't like playing it, and I don't like playing against it.
That's fair.
But
That's
it
fair.
definitely is something you can play if you like want another win condition in the deck. But as far as the deck as it goes right now, like the Pranks, if you can play any game that I played, I won. Like I lost Infernobles in Swiss, and that was my only loss. And it was because I didn't draw any kids game 1 when I went first. And he's on a combo deck, so you're gonna lose that. I also foolishly like threw away my like impermanences that I like had, but I also didn't know exactly what I was playing against at the time. But
Yeah.
and then game 3, I just didn't open a hand trap, and that deck specifically hand loops you for like 4 or 5 cards, and that's what he did. So like I just didn't get to play.
Yeah. I mean, it's just like unfortunate you didn't open up a prank when you play so many.
Yeah, it's like 16. It's like an 8% chance to not open one. It's like 7.92%, I believe, going first to not open one.
Yeah, but stuff like that'll happen though, unfortunately.
Yeah, it's like usually once or twice a tournament. It should happen based on the amount of games you play.
Yeah. At least you lost in Swiss to the Infernoble player and not in the finals.
Yeah, yeah. In the finals, he had very unlucky draws. So,
Yeah, it was only fair. It was only fair.
all right. I guess so. The video isn't too long for you. We'll go to the extra deck next. So for extra deck, we did 2 of the Meow Meows. Like most people are playing 3, and you still can play 3. If I were to take out a card out of this entire extra deck and put something else in, it would be Phoenix. Like Phoenix, I never made it at all. I never like had to. Um, like it came up in testing every now and then, but it doesn't ever come up in tournaments. I don't know. So Phoenix could easily be a 3rd Meow. It could be a 3rd Doodle. It could even be Roar and Roaster. Which is actually a card I did miss this turn. It was Roar and Roaster, to be frank. So Link Spider and the Anaconda I explained earlier. It's just to help play around Nib. And then like sometimes it just comes up for an extra 1,000 damage with the Link token if you've already made Meow Meow. So you can make your Pranks token into a Link Spider. And then you have the one Bow Wow. It's standard. You don't need to. Unicorn and Access Code, they're like pretty standard for the deck. Underworld Goddess is another tech card I've been playing. It's been in there for 2 months now, I guess. And I definitely made it final ever since Pack topped with his Ad Ignister deck in the tournament a while back. I was like, you know what? I can do this. I can make this guy get rid of his boss monster with just one kid and any other prank card in hand. So it's there for Dragoon. It's good against Striker. Actually, it won me the match in the mirror round 8 against the other prank kids player who was undefeated at the time because he held Pandemonium as long as he could. And I was like, okay, I'll just link away your monster then. And he couldn't. He didn't have enough materials to make Butler, so.
Yeah, they definitely
so
were not expecting those.
Yeah, he said that. He's like, man, if you weren't playing that, I think I would have won. I'm like, I don't know. But speaking of, I've never actually lost a prank kid mirror in a tournament yet. So for any of those who are trying to play prank kids and beat me, you know, I give you a good luck.
Calling out the prank kids community.
Weather Watcher standard, Rocket Rod standard, Butler standard, and then Toad is pretty standard. Actually, I made Toad so many times this tournament. It's so easy with the poly build. Like I had Toad at least once once a match at least, and that's going first. If I had to say setting up on like turn 2 after Butler effect, then I would probably had it twice a match. I always made it even when I couldn't get game because I did not want to play in a nib. So I would always go for Toad. I made that mistake at the YCS, and I did not want to make it here. And it paid off. There were some times I looked at my replays, my opponent did have nib, and they didn't even use it because I made the Toad. So, which I think is a waste because you should still get it off the board. But, you know, that's just how they play, I guess. Mm-hmm. But that's the extra deck, main, and side. So I think if anyone has any questions, I think I explained everything pretty well off here.
Actually, I have a few questions. Just a couple.
Yeah.
So we've seen a lot of people be poly haters, and they didn't like poly before. How did you like poly throughout the tournament?
As I mentioned, I've been on poly since like a month after the Link 1 released. And I used to play this deck before the Link 1 released. I topped YCS Chicago back in 2019. And with this deck, and like I only played I think 3 poly and 1 invocation then, along with 3 Pandemonium. But and I just like am really biased against the being killed by Nib, and it's not just for Nib. The card is an amazing starter and extender, like especially going second. So say if you have no hand traps going second. And this has happened in a few cases, and I know you've seen it in some of your matches that you recorded as well. If you don't have a hand trap, but you have like 2 kids and an engine, like with Poly, you're gonna go off. Like unless you're against Drytron, that's the only deck you won't because they're gonna have a million negates. But any other deck that's in the format, if you don't open up a hand trap and you have Poly kids, you're gonna play, and that's gonna keep you in the game, if not win you the game, because it's not only helps you with chain blocking, but it builds so much advantage. It lets you make Toad in most cases under the Force Summon. It just, I don't know. I don't know how else to explain it. Like a lot of people like the Fusion Recycling Plant with it, but I don't want to neg like a card when they just ash it. And then the second part of that card effect that like lets you special in the end phase, it just doesn't come up because you're gonna like usually send whatever back in the face with pranks. So Recycling Plant is just like a neg, I think. So you could play King of the Swamp. I did have those in here before, but I want to make room for hand traps and stuff. So Poly is definitely, I think, a 3-of in this deck, and it's going to stay in this deck as a 3-of. It's just a necessary card as amazing extender and starter. And I know you mentioned that in one of your recordings as well, like that you agree with playing Poly. Yeah. And I've tried. I'm in the Prank Kids community. I'm actually have a fake profile called John Germany because my real profile was banned last year for some reason during COVID, and I could never get it back. So actually, on MCole40's like breakdown, he says John Germany. So no one knows who that is, but that's actually me, BoJohn14, Jonathan Gokenauer, Prank Kids Master, that you guys used to call me back in the day. So if you guys are confused with that name, that's just me. But I've been talking in the community about getting people back on Poly, and I've had Henry Furchow, the admin of the Prankaduous, agree with me, and he's been on it as well. And a lot of people have started asking questions why have people been switching to Poly, and I've tried to been commenting and giving them suggestions and telling them why it's good. So I think majority now is switching to Poly. I know another Prank Kids list that topped was on Poly. I'm not sure if the third one had it, but I know another list of that had it for top 16. So
Yeah, I'm pretty sure all the lists had Poly that topped. I don't
okay.
remember if the non-hand trap build had it or not. I think they did though. So
It's
just
just amazing.
yeah, just a few more questions. So why didn't you play 3 Pandemonium?
Yeah, so like I'm not on Desires. So the real reason for 3 I always figured was um you play Desires. And then also before a lot of people weren't on Poly, so you wanted to have 3 of that fusion spell anyway. And it's pretty good, like against say something like I don't know, if say if you're going against Tri Brigade and they have the Ancient Warriors guy. Like actually I guess he doesn't even matter because he just bounces. What's a good example? Okay, say IP Masquerena into like a unicorn.
Mm-hmm.
That's where Pandemonium could shine because they target your monster and then you just chain Pandemonium then. But a lot of scenarios that shouldn't like happen too often anymore. And if it does, like, or if it can, and you have like regular poly, you can just poly the 2 kids in your hand and just be fine. Like you're playing 3 additional fusion spells, not counting Thunder Dragon Fusion. Um, and that kind of like supplements having not needing the access to that Pandemonium. And besides, you'd rather have the poly or Pandemonium so you don't lock yourself in the Prank Kids anyway, because you can't usually push for game if they have monsters on board if you start Pandemonium. If they have an open board, yes. But if they have monsters on board, you can't like kill them with Pandemonium, which is usually fine because you're gonna have plenty of follow up. But you're
Yeah.
also, if you're locked into kids, then they can hold their interaction for when they like when they need it because they know you. If you're locked into kids, you can't go into anything that's going to threaten them besides Butler or maybe a monster that's higher attack that's pointing to Bow Wow. So they can use their negates more effectively against you if they have any or interaction. And I'd rather just have Poly to have access to anything. Like during testing, my friend Kyle would always be like he would have an Ash and he could literally negate a summon. Like it's like some like my doodle would be chain blocked by like say a summon, but he wouldn't even negate the summon because he kept saying the monsters don't do anything, and he's right, they don't, especially if you're under Pandemonium. But if you're not, then they can turn into other threats like Unicorn, like Phoenix, like Underworld, Access Code. Like you have so many things you can go into, including the Toad. Like this, the third Pandemonium just isn't needed. Like you always should play 2, but the third one is not needed when you're playing polymerization.
Mm-hmm. So just one more question before we go. How was the Thunder Dragon fusion, like Anaconda and Link Spider throughout the tournament? Did you ever want to have like other stuff in your extra deck? Because obviously this takes up like some room. Did you ever find like the Thunder Dragon fusion stuff to just be like extremely good and like worth it, or would you like cut this?
Um, to be honest, like this is the first tournament I've tried this out. I mean, had it in testing like months ago and I didn't like it, but obviously the format changes every ban list. But Dragon Link being out of it, like, and then you have Drytron now, and and it's mostly mid range decks actually. This entire meta, like, I would not. I think I'm going to keep Anaconda in there and Link Spider. I mean, Link Spider could technically change if people stop citing Nib as much because Tri Brigade's always going to play around Nib these days. It's not very good against Drytron. It's usually not good against this deck if you know what you're doing. So if people stop citing Nib as much, I could take Link Spider out, but I think Anaconda is going to be there to stay with Thunder Dragon Fusion just because people are on Bell still, and Bell is really good against this deck. You literally go like -3 if they Bell your like doodle because you lose your monster and the 2 ads that you were gonna have. So you kind of like need that Anaconda and like Thunder Dragon Fusion specifically for those types of scenarios. And it came up. I made Anaconda 3 different times. One was under nib, and 2 other times was because I got just hand trapped by too many fair HTs. So it can come up, like, and it won me a couple games. Actually, I lost one because I sided out Thunder Dragon Fusion in round like 3. Like I lost a game against Tri Brigade in round 3 because I sided it out and I went for Anaconda and I was like, oh, I can't resolve. Like you can send poly, but I didn't have 2 kits, so like I ended up losing that game. And I was like, I learned from that. I'm like, I'm never gonna side out Thunder Dragon Fusion, no matter how much I hate the card. So I kept it in, and it was worth it the entire tournament. It definitely won 3 matches for me. 4 if you count the one time I hard drew the Thunder Dragon Fusion. So, like I said, if I changed the extra deck at all, it'd just be Phoenix coming out. But what it was before was Anaconda was Roar and Roaster, and Link Spider was another Meow. There would have been one instance I needed the 3rd Meow, but I ended up just drawing another kid for turn to make my fusion live, so I ended up winning that. But a 3rd Meow, if I played anything different, would like the 3rd Meow is just something you can have. If you manage resources right, you don't need it. But I did miss Roar and Roaster. Like I like Roar and Roaster because it's something that I don't know. I like making Roar and Roaster as an additional interaction. So that's something I would probably put back in. But other than that, I think the extra deck was good for me, and the Thunder Dragon Fusion and Anaconda worked well for me.
All right. Do you want to say anything else before we hop off here?
Actually, I might be joining a tournament this weekend for Dragon Rider games, and I've been speaking to some of the hosts there, and depending on how well I do with them, I potentially might be getting a sponsor from them. So I'm actually looking forward to that. Might be playing in that. So shout out to Dragon Rider Games as well. They're like the 2nd highest online tournaments behind Luxury. If anyone wants to join their tournament this weekend, starts Saturday at 10 a.m. Central Standard Time, but signups go as far as I think as Friday night. So good luck. If anyone wants to join them, they're doing all cash tournaments. So.
And I will leave a link to their Facebook group down below. Just because, like, you might be on their team. I could help you out. Never know. Like,
yeah, it sounds good. That'd be awesome.
But with all that being said, the DB Grinder signing off. Peace. Have a nice day. Stay safe.